with the clarity of her vision. This also strikes me as a moment when the text once again reflects life in a way that is urgent and simultaneously inspiring and disquieting. Speaks to this moment where I think we are a place of non-disclosure and of deep, deep uncertainty about what the future holds. All of us, at whatever age, hope and pray for clarity. And we want to tell our children what is right and what is true and what they need to do to keep themselves safe. And so often, the words depart us in the moment when we speak. I cried this year when Yosef took Shimon hostage. And like every year, this, by the way, I'm sure is why the rabbis divided the parshiot as they did. So you'd have to come back next week. But like every year, I read ahead because I could not bear to keep him in captivity. But if you ask me, Ben, should Israel try to get back as many hostages as possible by pursuing a truce, or instead continue to press the war? My answer is, I don't know. I think the war Israel is still fighting, though tragic, is just and necessary. But if you ask me, are the goals achievable? I'm going to say, I don't know. And if the righteous and necessary goal of destroying our enemy's capacity to do us harm is not achievable, then perhaps you will ask me, is all that death worth it? And I will say, I don't know. If you ask me what it's going to be like one day, God willing, 10 or 15 years hence, when my children go off to college, if you ask me, do I want them to go to Duke or UNC, these American institutions that I have lionized since I was a child, and which, by the way, taught me quite a lot, I'm going to say, I don't know. If you ask me, really, what future do Jews have in America? I am going to tell you, I don't know. So instead of sharing the future with his kids, Yaakov, as Rashi says, mysteriously, tells them dvarim acherim, other things. And what follows in the Torah are all of these benedictions. Benedictions that promise triumph, yes, but also strife. Benedictions that are as bracing as they are comforting, as violent as they are beautifully complex, as the one who offers the benedictions is complex. Yaakov, who nips at the heels, Yisrael, who wrestles with God. The section closes with the verse, V'zot asher diber lahem avihem. This is what their father told them. Vayvarech otam ish kebirchato berachotam. Brachot, blessings, each one according to his own blessing. And Ibn Ezra, another important medieval commentator, in a comment that I find both haunting and deeply inspiring, he says that what we just read were not really the brachot at all. Because he said, look, he didn't bless Shimon and Levi, he kind of cursed them a little bit. So if those are the blessings, so it must not, so when the Torah says these are the blessings, it must not be, says Ibn Ezra, what we just read, it must be something that Yaakov says later, which we don't read. V'achar kach, v'acharei ken, Ibn Ezra says, Beirachotam. Then he blessed them. V'lo hizkir hakatuv et habrachot. But the text does not share with us the brachot. The brachot belong to the undisclosed realm of Rashi's other things. And these things, I like to imagine, are simultaneously too wonderful and too mundane for the Torah to share. I imagine Yaakov telling the boys about the time when they were young and when they played together with the sheep, or trying to recall a trip they took to Grandpa's wells. Or I imagine him telling them how Rachel laughed, or how Leah's voice sounded. Their mothers, who both died years before. I remember when you first tried figs, Yaakov tells Zvulun. I remember, God, the time you cried when we slaughtered a sheep. As the skies and clouds of Breshit roll away and open out next week onto new horizons, I am struck by the fact that they have left in their wake a series of faces and moments that have felt so urgent and relevant to the world as they've unfolded that it takes my breath away. It does not matter to me particularly whether this is the product of my imagination or whether the product of ancient and primal forces. And like Yaakov, they have led me not to a place of absolute clarity. Quite to the contrary. And instead, as I set off into Shmot, I find myself more uncertain and more blinkered, just like our great ancestor. So I try to bless my children. And those blessings I will not share with you, but only with them. And after that, we'll all read on for as long as we can.